Hi again, everyone. Welcome to Inside Sports. I'm Mark Keller. We're glad you're with us today. We've reached the midpoint of high school basketball season. Teams are starting to hit their strides following the holiday break and tuning up for the postseason. And we're fortunate to have a huge high school basketball showcase right here in our backyard in Washington County. The St. James Invitational Tournament gets underway next Thursday, featuring 3 days of hoops and some of the best high school teams in the nation. And that's not hyperbole. Tim Kelby stops by today to tell us about the teams and players to watch at the St. James Tournament. After that, we'll talk some more about St. James, this time wrestling. Andy Mason is here to tell us how the Saints are doing on the mats this season and take a look at some of the other big stories in county wrestling. Finally, Dan Kaufman is back with a report on the Washington County Indoor Track Championships, where one team made it a clean sweep at Hagerstown Community College last weekend. Lots to get into today, so let's get started. Tim Kelby is up first when Inside Sports returns right after this.
Cynthia Moeller-Sullivan of Sullivan Select Real Estate has been recognized by Homelight in 3 categories: Top Overall Producer, Top Seller's Agent, and Top Agent that sells for more. Unlike other real estate venues, agents cannot pay to be recognized by Homelight. If you are considering the sale of your home, call Cynthia for a free market analysis, 301-988-5115. When it comes to real estate, select the best with Sullivan Select.
If you have children entering kindergarten in the near future, help them get off to a great start. Pre-K is one of the most effective ways to prepare children to enter kindergarten ready to succeed. At home, parents can help support their child's development through reading, counting, exploring, and playing. Like you, we know a child's early years lay the foundation for all that is to come. Kindergarten readiness matters. Find out more at ontrackwc.org. Learn today, succeed tomorrow. Brought to you by OnTrack Washington County and Antietam Broadband.
Thank you for seeing us so quickly. He's just unbearable when he's sick.
I'm glad that you came right into Meritus Urgent Care.
We have just what you need to feel better faster, young bear.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Meritus Urgent Care is located off Moggins Avenue on Creighton Boulevard. For more information, visit meritushealth.com/urgent care.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. Going to start things off today with some boys basketball. Bring in Herald Mail insider Tim Kelby. And Tim, big weekend coming up here next weekend. The St. James Invitational Tournament down at St. James School. This is a big deal. 34th year of the tournament, but it had a little break in there. This is what, the fifth year back now?
Fifth year back, but I think probably, you know, except for over the years, which you're well aware of the history, with individual players in, I think this is probably the biggest St. James tournament as far as teams coming in. It's not often that you have the #1 team in the country in Montverde Academy coming in, and not often that you have the defending national champion come in with IMG Academy. So that's what we've got here, plus a couple of other really good teams.
Yeah, there have been some huge years down there at St. James in the past. You mentioned some of the individual players, and Oak Hill Academy from Virginia was a standard team here in the tournament. But I think you're right to have the defending national champions and the current #1 is unusual for sure.
Out of the 8 teams in the tournament, you have 23 players out of the top 100 in the country in the preseason that are at this tournament. That's 23 players. That's unheard of. And you probably have the best guard in the country. Cade Cunningham, 6'7" senior from Montverde, is here. He's the 2nd overall player in the country. Montverde has 7 players in the lineup that have D1 either have been signed or still have decisions to make. So that's 7 players. In one of their games the other night in the tournament they were playing in Massachusetts, two of the starters that are D1 signees, 0 points. They didn't need them. They did so many other things with assists. And then they got these other kids come off the bench and score 12, 14 a game. They're just loaded.
Quite a luxury to have D1 players sitting on your bench by design. Not foul trouble that they're sitting on the bench. So tell us a little bit about the pairings for the first day of the tournament on Thursday.
Well,
what are we looking at there?
Let's see. Originally, First Love Christian was going to be coming in, and they would have been playing Montverde Academy. But when Montverde found out that First Love had a couple of 6th-year players, they said, well, sorry, it's either they don't come or we don't come. So I think Montverde had a little bit more clout to that. So they'll be playing a Scotland campus who was taking their First Love's spot for the second straight year. They're a fill-in team. Riverdale Baptist, a really underestimated team this year, has played a murdered schedule. They get, I don't have it in front of me, I should know it by heart, National Christian, I think it is?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
right. And then, I don't know why they did this, but the third game of the night, St. James, as the host team, is going to play IMG Academy. It's going to be an easy, quick drop into the consolation bracket. And then Montverde will finish it with the fourth game of the night. And I know I'm missing a game in there somewhere.
Legacy,
yeah. Legacy, early prep. This is a school that really nobody's heard of. It's their second-year school down in Greenville, South Carolina. They'll be playing Hillcrest Prep Academy, who's making the trip in from Phoenix, Arizona. The unique thing there, they're coached by, or I should say they were coached by, if you remember, Mike Bibby, who was a star at UCLA, had been at Shadow Mountain in Phoenix for 4 years, came over to take over Hillcrest. Started out the season 8-1. They're averaging about 115 points a game, and all of a sudden, Mike Bibby's not the coach. So, still haven't talked to the new coach yet. So, but they're still winning, except for being clobbered the other night by, we remember this team from past Sunrise Christian, who beat Hillcrest by 43 points the other night.
You mentioned St. James and having to square off against IMG in the first round. I remember back in the earlier days of the tournament, that was kind of the standard for St. James as well. They would end up playing Oak Hill or St. John's Prospect Hall in the first round, and they kind of took that as a badge of honor. You know, let's go ahead and play the top team.
That's exactly what Kevin Breslin said as far as this year, and I know they felt the same way last year. You know, they've got an up-and-coming team. They've got two eighth graders. Wait till you see them next year as freshmen. But they got to start making that progress and building the blocks for next year. And, you know, they can only learn by playing a team like IMG.
Talk about IMG. Now, that's a team that won the national title last year, and certainly you know that's a factory. They're not dropping off too much from one year to the next. What do they look like?
They dropped off very little. They feature the number 4 player. In the country, James Springer, 6'6" swingman. He basically covers the whole floor like Cunningham does for Montverde. The only deal is this year, Montverde's got a little bit more depth than what IMG does, but they just can't get away from playing Montverde now. They have played twice this year. They played in the championship game at Hoop Hall in Massachusetts. And like they did the first time earlier in the year, Montverde beat up on them pretty good. Who knows if we'll see a third game or not? You know, it's possible, but it's also possible that Hillcrest or even Legacy could pull a surprise or two.
You mentioned some of the players so far and players who have come through in the past. Just to name a select few: Tracy McGrady, Dennis Scott, Jerry Stackhouse, among some of the names that have gone here. Maryland fans might remember Steve Blake playing in the tournament up here. So who are some of the other names, maybe not from Montverde and IMG, that might raise some eyebrows?
This is IMG's first trip here. So whoever raises the eyebrows this year, these guys are going to be known in the future in college. I think that Springer is going to be a really big name down the road into the pros. Now, if he gets into college, he's going to be that type of player you're going to question. Is he going to stay after a year or two? He could go. Cunningham could definitely go. Those are the prime guys. There's also a fellow at Hillcrest. His name is Makim Makur. He's about a 6'8" guard forward that is going to hit the big time. Those are probably the 3 featured players in the tournament that people want to watch.
So put you on the spot here and ask for a prediction from you for the champion of this year's St. James Invitational.
I think it's going to be. I think it'll be a third matchup between Montverde and IMG, but I'm going to reserve the judgment that Hillcrest Academy pulls an upset somewhere along the line and gets into the final. But I think Montverde's just totally unbeatable. I think they've got a path all the way into New York for the national tournament.
Well, Tim will be down there at St. James covering the tournament for the Herald Mail. Your last assignment officially for the Herald Mail. You, Tim, let everybody know a few months ago.
77 days ago.
Yeah, 77 days ago. And it's how many days until?
As we tape here, it's 11. 11 days to go.
Tim's hanging up the typewriter, so to speak, and calling it a day. But Tim's been here in Hagerstown for 18 years. I hired him for the sports staff back in 2002. And he's been part of it ever since.
June of 2002.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride. Just talk real quickly about some of your best memories of writing for the Herald and covering sports here in Washington County mainly.
Well, you always have memories of what goes on of the tournament at St. James. Those have really been special. But I think the overall #1 memory was Cokie Robertson's retirement. The nights that they played Bishop Walsh. It was his last home game, and believe it or not, it's been like 10 years. But the biggest night was after the game of that final, when he walked around to all the well-wishers that circled the floor at the Gale Center, and it was just like Cal Ripken's, when he broke the game record. It was just like that. That's probably my #1 memory.
One thing that Tim's always done is kind of dive in, completely into what he does, covering football, basketball in particular for the newspaper, and golf as well. Always keeps up with stats and records and so forth. You could always count on Tim to have those things, and I have a feeling that that you'll be continuing some of that even on your own time as well.
Might be.
Old habits die hard.
Yeah,
right?
They do. This all depends on how much time I can use, as I'm not more time on the golf course now.
Definitely. Well, we're glad you get to enjoy that as well. And speaking for myself and I think the rest of the sports guys at the Herald Mail, thank you for the work that you've done here in Washington County and covering sports, and best of luck in your retirement as well, Tim.
Appreciate it. Thanks much.
Thanks. Stay with us. We'll have Andy Mason coming up to talk high school wrestling right after this.
Hello, my name is Jim Gross, and I'm very involved in our local sports community, as you may have seen me on the volleyball court, the wrestling mat, or the softball field officiating sports. I'm also the broker and owner of Absolute Real Estate, as I've been making it easy for over 20 years in Washington County for people to buy and sell homes. Call me, Jim Gross, at 301-788-7888 for absolutely the best in savings and service, and ask me about my sports organization donation program.
For my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do. And people are starting to notice.
Joker. Rent it now.
Digital customers, tune to Channel 1 to get started.
Access to high-speed internet is critical for school-aged children. Since 2014, Antietam Broadband and Washington County Public Schools have partnered to connect students and families in need with low-cost, high-speed internet service at home. Every child deserves an opportunity to succeed. Ask your child's teacher for more information on the Antietam EduNet program. A message from Washington County Public Schools and Antietam Broadband.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. Herald Mail sports editor Andy Mason joins me now as we talk high school wrestling. Andy, thanks for being here. We talked a lot last week about the public school teams, didn't mention St. James a lot, so let's give St. James their due here now and talk about them. They're on a bit of a roll right now.
Yeah, they're above 500, which is it's a great accomplishment for St. James. They have wrestle a pretty tough schedule, a lot of public school teams. St. James they have a big lineup, but most of the kids each year are brand new wrestlers, or they don't start most St. James wrestlers don't start wrestling until they get to high school. Every kid at St. James has to do a sport, and the ones who choose wrestling are often choosing it for the first times in their life. But Steve Latchett's a great coach, and they're getting some results, especially this year. Well, recent years they've had great results, but this year, Tuesday night, great win over Mercersburg Academy, one of their biggest rivals, if not their biggest rival. at least locally. Beat them 45-34. Jerry Tejado at 182 pounds. The match, it came down to that final match, and basically all he needed to do was not get pinned, and St. James was going to win. But there he is on his back in the first period. But he fights it off. He comes back. Second period, he gets the pin. St. James wins, and so it was a great win. A few days earlier than that, last Friday, St. James won the Mid-Atlantic Conference Dual Meet Championship, which is one of the top goals the team has each year. There are five wrestling schools in the MAC, and they went 4-0. They beat St. Andrews and Georgetown Day pretty easily, and then won a couple hard-fought bouts with Sidwell Friends and Potomac School. And so they're sort of halfway through. They're halfway done with the MAC. The next big thing is next week is the MAC individual tournament. So St. James if they win that, which they're I'd say they're the favorites to do. It'll be their third straight year they've swept both the MAC Dual Meet Championships and the tournament.
Okay, so congratulations to St. James on a conference championship, and best of luck to them going forward here. Let's go back to the public schools now and start with Williamsport there. Ranked 15th in the state overall right now, and
yeah, that's public, private, big school, small school. There are a lot of private schools in there, so they're definitely a top 10 public school team, maybe even a little higher than that. I'd have to look, but yeah, they're ranked 15th overall, and they've got a great team as they have had the last few years. They're 24-2. And they've been winning without a couple of their regular starters. Malachi Cunningham's been out. Will Kuster's been out. Cunningham should be back. I think he's ready to come back right now. Kuster just got his cast off. He'll be back soon, hopefully. But they just sort of had a big blow, and I don't know the full story. I don't even know a quarter of it. But Zayden Meyer is no longer on the team, and that's a big blow for Williamsport. Two-time state place winner. Definitely would have been a contender to win a state title this year, and he's no longer on the team. But they have to continue on, and they got some big matches coming up. Next week they host Northern Garrett, and then they travel to Southern Garrett. They should beat Northern. They beat Southern earlier this year, but that was with a full healthy lineup with Zayden. Can they do it again? I don't know, but that's going to be key in determining positioning. Both those matches next week are going to be key for determining the region duels matchups.
And really one of the big stories all season for Williamsport and going forward here has been Brandon Oyster, 34-0. He improved his record too, and he's just been rolling over people here.
Oh yeah, big 220-pound kid, strong, tough. He's a great wrestler, and he's getting some serious results this year. Yeah, 34-0. You can't be better than that. Almost all of them are pins, and he just had a huge milestone at the Rebel Duels. Where he went 10-0. He obviously he didn't lose, but he became Williamsport's all-time winningest wrestler. He has more wins than anyone else in program history. He's 145-28 right now. The previous record was set by Cody Crawford a few years ago, 140 wins. So that's a huge accomplishment, especially at a big wrestling school like Williamsport. That said, kids wrestle a lot more matches now than they used to. For him to sort of get that, for him to be mentioned among the all-time greats at Williamsport, he's going to need to get that state title, which I think he can do this year.
Real quickly before we wrap up, a couple other unbeaten wrestlers still in Washington County as well. One at Boonesboro, one at Smithsburg.
Yeah,
right?
Sophomore Darby Bryant, 152 pounds, 30-0, and then Clark Smith, freshman, 106-pounder at Smithsburg, 21-0. So yeah, we have Oyster, Smith, and Bryant are last of the unbeatens.
And still a couple kids at South Hagerstown that are having outstanding seasons as well, right?
Yeah, Caleb Everhart, 34-1 senior, and he earlier this season he's became South Hagerstown's all-time leader in wins. He's now 144-19 for his career, and number 2 now is another South senior on the all-time list, Nick Hellball, who's 33-2 this season, 116-21 for his career.
Okay, that'll wrap us up for wrestling. Stay with us. Dan Kaufman's coming up next with Indoor Track. Stay with us.
Cynthia Moeller-Sullivan of Sullivan Select Real Estate has been recognized by HomeLight in 3 categories: Top Overall Producer, Top Seller's Agent, and Top Agent that sells for more. Unlike other real estate venues, agents cannot pay to be recognized by HomeLight. If you are considering the sale of your home, call Cynthia for a free market analysis, 301-988-5115. When it comes to real estate, select the best with Sullivan Select.
Introducing Antietam Smart Wi-Fi, the ultimate home networking solution. Smart Wi-Fi expands your wireless network and can eliminate Wi-Fi dead zones. Adding Smart Wi-Fi access points creates a Wi-Fi blanket for all of your devices, so you get consistent wireless internet speeds anywhere in your house. So go ahead and browse, game, and stream video in any room. Make the most of your internet with Smart Wi-Fi from Antietam Broadband. Smart homes deserve smart Wi-Fi.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. Dan Kaufman joins me now to talk indoor track. The Washington County Indoor Track Championships held last weekend. And Dan, we have new champions on both the boys and girls side. It's the same team.
And I did not call it, especially on the boys side. It's North Hagerstown, and they sweep the team titles in, at least in my experience, what was the most competitive county championship meet that I have ever seen. The boys title decided by just 2.5 points. North edging Williamsport, and the girls' title decided by a single point, North over Boonesboro.
Wow, quite a competition there. First boys' title for the Hubs since 2001 in the county. First for the girls since 2010. Let's start out talking about the girls and looking at your story from the event. I was really struck by the lead in that. Mary Claire Anderson, yeah. She had quite a finish to the competition,
right.
We'll say.
Yeah, the second to last event, the 800, which is probably her best event indoors. And she dominated as expected, winning that event. And she thought her day was over. And Coach walks up to her and says, "We need you in the 4x4," which they did because the event came down to that. They, at that point, were 3 points ahead of Boonesboro. Boonesboro had the top seed in that event. North knew it was probably going to have to finish second in that event in order to get the team championship. So, you know, Mary Claire's on her way to the water, and Coach says, "You're in." She's like, "What? Excuse me?" But she did it, and she anchored down second. She took the baton. It was a pretty close race between second and third at that point when she took the baton. But she pulled away and guaranteed that team title. So great effort for her. Obviously, there were some other great efforts for North's girls. Sida Sharif winning both the 55 and the 300. And she has some sprint competition this year. Those were not guaranteed wins. So she really came through with some big results, especially in the... Actually, I think she ran personal season best in both of those events. We mentioned Mary Claire Anderson in the 800. Also got high jump victory from Brianna Smith and a shot put victory from Cozy Naquanta. So they did it on the track and in the field, and that's why they pulled this thing out.
I remember when we talked last week, kind of previewing the event, you mentioned that high jump competition, that was possibly going to be a battle, and it turned out to be one.
Yeah, I've never heard of a high jump competition that quite did this. So Brianne Smith and Nia Brown of Boonesboro both cleared 5'1" as they were going up regularly, and then both missed 5'2", and they go look at the results and see that they had the same number of misses throughout. They're still tied. So they dropped them back to 5'1", and they both cleared it again with the same number of misses. So then they have to go back to 5'2" again, or up to 5'2" again. They both missed there. And they had to go, according to Brianna Smith, because I didn't see the event, but according to her, they went all the way back down to 4'10" before Brianna Smith cleared that and wound up getting the victory. But a wild, I didn't even know you could do that. I had no idea that you'd go down in heights to that degree before you could find a winner. So, but that, I mean, as we mentioned with the team scores, I mean, every point was vital. I mean, you know, anything along the lines could have happened in either of these races. Yeah, kid, instead of getting, you could even say instead of getting 6, might get 7, then it could change the whole thing. So just one of those team races that was just, you know, everything mattered.
Talk about some other individuals who stood out, and one in particular, Smithsburg's Daly Yonker, doing the same thing indoors that she did outdoors during cross-country season.
Really showing well. She was a little strategic because she had to run 3 pretty significant events, the 4x8 and the 1600 and 3200, all within a span of 2 hours. That county meet usually takes about 3 hours and 45 minutes total, and when you take out the opening 55 and 55 hurdles heats, it really goes in about 3 hours flat. So when you're doing a lot of events like that, it's pretty tough to conserve energy. So she ran with Boonesboro's Cammie Rowe strategically until the last 2 laps of both the 1600 and the 3200 before really turning it on. But that said, you know, Cammie ran pretty well and forced Yonker to run some solid times, 5:39 for the 1600 and 12:19 for the 3200. Those are rock solid times, and as we said last week, you know, coming off a cross-country state title, she's in great form and is showing it every single week.
Let's go over to the boys' side now, and a double winner for North Hagerstown there was Devin Napier.
An unexpected double winner. He was the favorite going into the 300 and still dropped about a second off of his season best and running 36.65 seconds. And he was pushed by his teammate, Alex Tema Abanke, ran 36.71, only 0.06 of a second slower. So the two of them giving North a 1-2 finish in that event was big. But the real highlight of the night, and I think the event everybody was looking forward to, was the boys 55 dash, because, you know, South's got the new county record holder in Khalil Booker and another really rock solid sprinter in Prince Proctor also lining up in that event. And Napier was definitely not the favorite in that event, and yet he emerges to take the victory in 6.54 seconds. And him, Booker, and Proctor were all within 0.05 of a second of each other. It was a bang-bang finish. And I know I was surprised at the finish, because as soon as they hit the line, I said, I think Napier won that. And by golly, he did, and got the double. And huge points for North pulling that off, you know. So amazing performance by him. And you could tell how elated he was, because he knew what he was up against to do that.
The Hubs also got some great performances from their relay teams as well.
Absolutely. The 4x200 relay, Keys, Teki Mensa, Sewell, and Napier winning in 1:40. And also North's 4x400 relay comes through in the final event, which was, again, clutch. I mean, every point mattered. So them getting that win in 3:37 and change. You know, great efforts by them. And, you know, it's funny because at the end of the meet, and I didn't write about this, but at the end of the meet, all the North kids, boys and girls, were gathered together. And I don't think they were aware of what had happened. This was like literally 30 seconds after the 4x400 had just ended. And all of a sudden, there were two explosions. One was the girls' team exploding, and the other was the boys' team exploding, and then all of them kind of jumping up and down. And so it meant a lot to them. I know it meant a lot to Coach Anthony Robinson, just a really big night for North's track program, which probably hasn't had a night as a team collectively like that in quite a while.
Well, congratulations to the Hubs on both sides there. Let's talk about some of the other individual performances for the boys, and just like we talked about with the girls, and Dale Yonker, another cross-country star, does it indoors, and this Iggy Chalker for Williamsport.
Yeah, and he's slowly catching up to the 1,600 county indoor record, which I believe is 4:23, held by Evan Hardy. Chalker's now down to 4:30 and change after winning the county meet. Also ran a rock-solid 9:39 in the 3,200. That's only a second slower than his season best in that event. So he's quickly approaching 2 county records. We'll see if he can get them. Obviously, he has some key meets left to go with the CMCs coming up on Friday, and then you get into the region and state meets. So, but again, continuing that form from that got him a cross-country state championship. And, you know, it was really impressive running these times because he was all alone. He didn't have any real competition to speak of. So that's basically just checking your watch every 200 meters, seeing what kind of pace you're on and pushing your own self. So to run these times is probably extra impressive given the circumstances.
Yeah, it's always interesting this time of year is once you start getting into past the counties and getting into the region meets, to see how the kids are able to kind of continue the momentum that they gain by winning in the counties. Dan, thanks a bunch for being here today. Appreciate it. We'll wrap things up right after this.
Introducing Antietam Smart Wi-Fi, the ultimate home networking solution. Smart Wi-Fi expands your wireless network and can eliminate Wi-Fi dead zones. Adding Smart Wi-Fi access points creates a Wi-Fi blanket for all of your devices, so you get consistent wireless internet speeds anywhere in your house. So go ahead and browse, game, and stream video in any room. Make the most of your internet with Smart Wi-Fi from Antietam Broadband. Smart homes deserve smart Wi-Fi.
Hello, my name is Jim Gross, and I'm very involved in our local sports community, as you may have seen me on the volleyball court, the wrestling mat, or the softball field officiating sports. I'm also the broker and owner of Absolute Real Estate, as I've been making it easy for over 20 years in Washington County for people to buy and sell homes. Call me, Jim Gross, at 301-788-7888 for absolutely the best in savings and service, and ask me about my sports organization donation program.
And that's all the time we have for Inside Sports this week. My thanks to Tim Kelby, Andy Mason, and Dan Kaufman for being here today. And of course, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to look us up on social media. On Twitter, we are at Inside Sports OL. On Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, it's at Inside Sports Now. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you back here next week on The Inside.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers, your haters and your lovers, you gotta get up in the streets.